Okie dokie. Another day of streaming, another day of TikTok, and another 2 days to go before the heavy restriction on my channel is lifted. That's probably if we get no more restrictions during that time. But yeah, hoping for no restrictions today and some more respectful conversations, respectful debates, respectful discussions. That's what it's all about. So, should we end all suffering? Yes, absolutely we should. And the only reason people don't care about suffering is because A, they're not thinking about it, they're not actually exploring the reality of it, right? So they're ignorant. And B, because they're just not appreciating extreme suffering. They're not they're not moved by it, right? They simply aren't moved by the suffering of others. They just don't care enough. I think that's really part of the problem, is that there's no amount of extreme suffering out there that would motivate anyone, with very few exceptions, to do activism, right? I mean, how bad would it have to be for you to actually get up and care and to become an activist against suffering? How bad would it have to be? Would children have to get abused? Would animals have to get abused? Well, guess what? That's already happening. So, what more would it take? How much more torture and suffering would it take for you to become an activist, right? Is there any amount of suffering that is too much? Because that's part of the problem as well, is that, people are living in this fantasy bubble where they assume that, that the suffering in the world is a tiny minority, that there's a happy balance between the happy people and the suffering people. They have this fantasy delusion that there's some sort of that it's okay, that there's some sort of ratio where, well, as long as everybody isn't suffering, then it's okay. And people often say that in my debates, right? They often say, well, come on, it's not like everyone is suffering. Well, how many is too many, right? 49%? Is 51% of people suffering too many, right? Oh, don't worry, Cora, the beginning wasn't really that special. And, what are you going to do? Wait with your finger for me to go live? Anyway, so yeah, but obviously the only right thing really is to make sure that nobody is trapped in a life of hell. That should be obvious, right? What could possibly be more important than making sure that nobody is trapped in a life of hell? Nothing, right? Nothing. Think of it this way, right? What could be more important than making sure that, like, the worst life ever lived doesn't happen again, right? If someone said, oh, by the way, starting tomorrow, your life will be the worst life ever lived throughout billions of years. It will be the worst one of all time. How would you take that news? Would you be happy about it? Would you be a bit upset, perhaps? Yeah, of course you would. So, what could possibly be more important than preventing, extreme lives of pure hell? And, if you take it all the way to the extreme, preventing the worst life possible, right? Would you want to live the worst life possible? Because, your imagination probably won't let you think very much about it. But really, the worst life possible, it's so far beyond comprehension how bad it is. It's unspeakable, basically. And yet, that is happening, right? So you wouldn't want that to happen to you. Nobody should have to go through that. Larry,
Hey,
hello. How you doing?
I'm good. I don't know, disagree with you. I don't know. I don't even know what you believe in. But do you believe that suffering is subjective rather than objective?
No, it's objective.
Can can you define it?
Yeah, if it can be fully measured, then it is objective, basically.
Not really. You can
That's
actually
how objective
ultimately.
works. It means it's measurable. It can be, measured, essentially.
Well, in my
Right.
opinion, suffering is subjective because, for example,
But suffering
animals.
isn't just some subjective thing, right? Suffering exists for a reason because you have a central nervous system, right? So it's not just, oh, it's different for everyone. No, the same structures exist which allow you to suffer, which allow everyone to suffer. So it's not really that subjective. Sure, it might be a little bit different for everyone, but it's more or less very similar, very much the same.
Well, I agree that it's caused by the brain because the brain thinks of something as suffering. But like, if you go and like see an animal's brain, they would think that suffering is a normal like process of life. Like you get
So
killed
if we
for
find an
food.
animal that's being tortured, you think it would approve of torture?
It would not approve of torture, but
Oh,
they
wow.
would think that like an animal would kill another person for food because it's natural process of life. That's
So
not
you think if
necessarily
animals
suffering in
are
their life.
so you think animals suffering terribly is a good thing?
I'm not okay. Being a good thing or a bad thing doesn't is it's also objective to humans, in my
Really?
opinion, because
No,
there's
it's
nothing
not. It's
objectively good
not,
or
right?
bad.
We know that animals don't like being tortured, okay? So to say that it's just subjective, that's ridiculous, right? And by that logic, anyone could go and torture an animal. So that's not a sensible position. Your position is literally saying anyone can do any amount of evil and it's okay. So that's not okay. And we should absolutely strive to have morality and ethics instead of simply saying, basically what you're doing is the lazy option. You're saying, we can never know, so let's not even think about it, right? Let's not even bother trying.
I'm not
That's
saying
lazy. It's
I'm
appealing
saying
to
that
not
suffering
thinking.
is subjective. We created that term.
Yeah, but again, that's an
What?
appeal to laziness, an appeal to not even thinking. You're saying, forget it, right? But but again, by that logic, child abuse would be okay. So why wouldn't it be okay by that logic, Larry?
Well, child abuse is okay for like animals, like because it's humans made
Again,
child
so
abuse
right,
not
this
okay
is this
because
is why I say that philosophy is bad for you, right? It will rot your brain like it did to Larry, right? He literally just said, yes, child abuse is good for you. Okay? No, it's a bit of a joke on my channel, on my show, right? The idea that people are coming up and saying child abuse is good for you. It's a bit of a joke. Or actually, it should be a joke. It's not actually a joke. It's what people are really saying. Like Larry, he literally just said that. Yeah, these subjective morality people, subjective suffering people, whatever, subjective crazy people, right? They literally want to justify cruelty and abuse, right? They're saying, oh, it's subjective, so as morality is subjective, so now I can go and abuse animals, and you can't prove it's bad. So goodbye, I'm going to go and torture some animals now. So that's it. If someone ever says, oh, morality is subjective, then you should immediately realize that it's literally just an escape from morality. That's all it is, right? The only reason you would ever want morality to be subjective is if you want to get away with being immoral, right? It really is as simple as that. Well, it's either that or you're just completely ignorant and struggle to understand it. But yeah, subjective morality is the last thing that you would ever want to exist, because then, any sort of criminal can say, well, you can't prove it's bad, so I can go and abuse people now, right? No. That's not a sensible way to operate. That just allows for abuse and suffering. Hello, how you doing?
Hi, I have a question.
Go for it.
So, do you know who Jim Jones is, or Jim Jones?
No.
He was the man in 1978. He had this, like, some people would call it a cult, and
Oh,
he had
okay.
900 followers, and they basically all did a mass. I think you know where I'm going. I can't say the
Yeah.
word, but they did it
Yeah.
right.
Mass
So,
exit. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm just thinking, like, if your goal is to um, eliminate the population, why not go about it in a way of like, there's one person who's the leader, and you guys don't actually like you have to gain trust first. Like if you're making these videos, people think that you're being it's all satire because they don't know you. There's no rapport there. There's no like, do you know what I mean? I feel like if you kind of focused on getting people in first and then you share what it's about, then maybe it will.
No, so you think this is some sort of mass exit cult? You've got it wrong. It's
No, I
nothing
don't. I
like that.
don't think that's what it is. But I think there's something that can be learnt from
From
mass
what?
exit cults.
Really? You actually think that we that we should learn from a mass exit cult? You actually think that
I think, yeah, I think there's
they
things
have
to be learned.
wisdom?
I think there's things to be learned from everything. It's maybe not
So
the
you
entire
think we
thing.
should learn from crazy people?
Oh my gosh, that's not what
You know,
I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
maybe you're a crazy person then.
Maybe we're all crazy people.
Yeah, I think we can do better than, putting a cult leader who caused harm to people on a pedestal and saying
It's
we
more
should learn
about the
from them.
psychology behind why people follow certain things.
Yeah,
It's not good
but
enough to get
it
online and
relies
make
on
videos
manipulation. It
that people
relies
aren't
on
taking
deceit.
seriously.
It relies on tricking people, on lying
It's
to
not
people.
tricking. It's the psychology behind it. You need
So
one
you
person.
think
You
cult
can't.
leaders are honest?
Oh my goodness. That's
You
not
think you
just
think cult leaders are
just take
honest?
the morality out of it for a second. I know it's very hard for you to do because that's your
No, this
entire
is about
thing.
rationality. You're saying that we
Yes,
should have
but
more
do you
people in the
think that you're
movement.
attracting rational people right now when everyone's seeing your videos and they think it's satire until they actually listen to your lives? Like,
Everyone. Hmm,
well, people
interesting.
think it's satire.
Everyone.
A lot of people.
Well, that's going to happen regardless.
Not really.
Really?
If you
So,
adopt a different approach,
do
the
you have
approach is
experience
everything.
as an activist?
Yeah,
Really? Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's obviously a crazy person that is also most likely a pathological liar, right? She's obviously not an activist. She's not in the pro-extinction movement, and she literally thinks that we should, learn from cults, right? That's the opposite of what we want to do. So basically, she's got it upside down. She thinks we need to get irrational people into the movement. That's the opposite of what we want to do. We need to get rational people into the movement, people who understand that cults are bad things and not something that you want to emulate. Okay, so we should use rationality instead of trying to copy cult leaders. I mean, come on, give me a break. Okay, we have nobody in the queue right now, so if you would like to have a debate, a discussion, then now's your chance to join the queue and we can pull you up onto the stage and have a chat with you. So yeah, now's your chance. If you've always wanted to ask something or to have a debate, then go for it. Let's hear you out. That's why you shouldn't have kicked me. Well, I mean, you were literally lying. You were being dishonest, right? What sort of activism have you done except for glorifying, dangerous cults? The gifting has been suspended because TikTok doesn't like me. So I've got 2 more days of being unable to receive gifts on the streams. But I think I've solved the problem now by changing my background. I think that is what was getting me restrictions. My last background was too provocative. I haven't had any restrictions since I've been using this background, so hopefully that will solve the problem. If you're asking about gifting and donating, you can donate to me through the link on my profile on TikTok. Or you can donate to the movement specifically. The link is also on my profile. And if you donate to the movement, I don't see a penny of it. But if you want to support me, the link is also there for that. Trevor is saying, hi, James. Dylan is saying, we need rational people for legitimacy. The growth isn't worth it. Exactly. Well done, Dylan. Let's make sure I'm following Dylan. It's a rational sounding person. Yeah, so it's kind of easier to understand it if you look at it in the long run. So in terms of why we need rational people as a priority. Because like if we let loads of irrational people into the movement, then they could potentially, overrun it and do an irrational, dangerous version of extinction. So the priority is actually the most vast and thorough extinction possible, even if it takes much, much longer. So the thoroughness and the vastness is, it's much better than just doing a tiny little extinction and rushing it. So yeah, in that sense, we basically, yeah, I mean, it's a spectrum of rationality, right? The human race, it's a spectrum of rationality. And there's a bit of a threshold for what we require for people to join the movement. And most people are just simply below that threshold. Over 99% of people. Over 99.9% of people, actually. So, yeah, I mean, we can let some people into the movement, depending on their rationality. They can still be helpful. They can still be trusted not to be completely insane. But most people are completely insane, right? So we don't want them in the movement. It would waste our time, it would waste our effort, our concentration. And so for our activists, it's really important for them to understand that their activism is going to be difficult. It's going to take a long time to see progress. And, for example, I've had millions of views on TikTok, and it's still very difficult to get new activists into the movement, which is the main goal, the main objective. So for other activists making videos, most likely you will have to make tens of videos before you get even one activist to join the movement. So each video you make is most likely not going to get any activists. And that's just something you have to understand, that most of your videos will effectively fail to get a new activist. But it's the only way to do it. So you just have to make more and more videos to improve your skills, right? And yeah, if you can learn how to start going viral, then that's going to push you forward massively. Uzguz is saying I'm arrogant. What? Because I'm not a cult leader, and because I don't think cults are intelligent things. Yeah, how arrogant of me. The skills aren't being improved? Really? Wow. And you don't think that's arrogant to say? Considering that, my videos have obviously improved, and so have our other activists' videos, right? They're of everyone making videos in our movement is, of course, they're improving and developing their skills, practicing video editing. Are you open, agreeable, and cooperative? I'd like to think I am. I can only debate if I have my points on a paper at hand. Well, practice makes perfect, right? The more you practice, the less you will need for paper. You're just asking people for money? No, we would rather have new activists rather than money, basically. But a lot of people don't have time to do activism, so they donate with money. But yeah, activists are worth more than money. Your numbers are terrible, this isn't working at all. Well, that's very negative of you, and you say my numbers are terrible, but, I got like 1 million views in the last 2 days. So, is that really terrible? Yeah, the truth might hurt to people saying that. Bro, reply to me, boss man. Caleb, what are you saying? What if, Caleb's saying, what if I want to live? The thing is that it's not rational to want to live, right? So we won't allow you to put yourself in danger by accident, essentially. We won't let you do that. We won't let you continue to be exposed to infinite danger. And it's not just a danger to yourself. You could reproduce and put others in danger as well. So unless you do total extinction, you can't guarantee, safety from more lives of pure hell. Grifting for money, do better. Well, by that logic, everyone is grifting for money, right? Why shouldn't the movement, take donations, right? Why not? In fact, for the longest time, we didn't. For the first 3 years of the movement, basically there were no donations, and we weren't even asking for them. I'm not going to reproduce. I think it's selfish. Well, that's what you think. But ultimately, it's selfish to be disconnected from the truth and the reality. And, if you're not looking at the bigger picture, then you can't be sure that action is going to be a good thing or a bad thing, which is selfish. So the non-selfish thing is to consider the whole picture, the greater good, what the world actually needs. And right now, it does need more humans, as we are the solution for suffering, right? We should help those who can't help themselves before we help ourselves. So animals can't help themselves. They will suffer for billions of years unless we help them. So yeah, it would be very selfish for humans to only care about their own suffering. So you don't have a will to live? No. Basically, extinctionism is about accepting that we would all be better off with safety rather than infinite danger. Stark is asking, how do I join the movement? That's a great question. You can join through the link on my TikTok profile. You can join our Discord, our WhatsApp group. The links are on the website and on my profile. And you can basically start making videos with us, start growing the movement, start supporting the movement in other ways. You know, some people are writing for our website, some people are on Instagram, some people are on YouTube, some people are just donating, some people are doing, you know, activism in the street protests and rallies, whereas some people are just online. How do you go about your day? Are you really sad, or you choose to do things not to sabotage? Yeah, I mean, you know, even people who don't want to live, they still have to live and survive and work and, you know, take care of business and do their chores, not to sabotage their survival. Unfortunately, yeah, most people that don't want to live, they still have to live because their survival instinct forces them to, right? Their mind literally doesn't let them do anything about it. Stark is saying, great, I'm a supporter. Fantastic. Well, the first thing you should do is join our Discord and our WhatsApp group. Again, the links are on my profile and also on the website. You could read our manifesto, our FAQ on the website. The FAQ on our website is actually really, really informative. It's extremely educational. It's probably one of our best resources by far. It answers every question and in detail as well. Somebody saying, send him some money. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You know, send more money every day. Why not? What is the Discord? I want to join. Great. You can Google search Abolish Suffering Discord, or you can click on my profile on TikTok and the link to the Discord is there as well. I actually think you're better than this. Well, I am better than this, but basically we are limited right now to extinctionism as the limit of human rationality. So this is the limit for human rationality, extinctionism. Are there better things, bigger things? Potentially, yeah. But biologically, this is the limit for what humanity can do. Maybe in the future we'll be able to pass that limit. But right now, advocating for the end of all suffering is the most rational thing that we can do. You're a smart guy. You could do stuff that would get you far more reach. Well, the thing is that would also push past the limits of rationality. So I'm basically limited to this to some extent. I could do bigger and better things, but that would actually pass the limit of rationality, which is a whole thing that I've, only begun educating you guys on. It's a whole massive thing about how the human brain works, basically. It's really interesting, but it's also a bit of a secret at the minute because basically there are things that some humans shouldn't know about psychology and that they shouldn't know about the way that the mind works. So I'm holding back a lot of information, basically, for your own good. Okay, let's see. We've still got nobody in the queue. We've still got nobody to talk to. So we're still waiting for people to join up, and let's get you on stage. James, what do we do about alien suffering? Great question. Now, our movement supports the most vast and thorough extinction possible. That is our top priority. And that means that we should push the limits, explore the limits of what the most vast and thorough extinction possible is. So, yeah, we might have to work towards universe-wide extinction. But essentially, it really comes down to humanity just doing as much as it can to be helpful before going extinct. So, in terms of humanity doing as much as it can, yeah, that might require more research, space travel. But look, even if humanity has to continue for 100 million years, 1 billion years, it's still humans are going to be suffering less than all of the animals that they're helping by doing that. So, if we continue for 1 billion years and we prevent 100 billion years of, even more just countless animals on countless planets, then that's the right thing to do, right? So we really have to consider that human suffering is essentially the least important suffering in the world, basically. As unfortunate as that is for humans, it's fortunate for animals for us to think that way, right? Animals, aliens, other life, they can't help themselves. Only we can help them. So it would be unfair, it would be incredibly unethical for us to take care of human suffering only, right? Why should we take care of those who suffer the least instead of those who suffer the most? That's not fair. What's rational for human suffering being less than others? We have the best conditions, whereas animals have the worst conditions. We are capable of improving our conditions even more, whereas animals will never be able to do that. So, we're not being eaten alive. Most animals get eaten alive. It's obvious that humans have better conditions. Most, if you take a poll of humans, apparently most of them are happy, right? If you did a poll of most animals, well, most of them get eaten alive as babies. So I don't think they're having happy lives. Obviously not, right? It should be obvious that we have way better conditions than animals have. And we have Shah in the chat. Hello, Shah. How you doing? Would you like to come up? Let's send you a little invitation, see if you'll accept it. Caleb's saying, that's physical pain, and it's dictated by their perception. That doesn't make it okay or better, Caleb, right? Again, do humans suffer worse than animals, or do animals suffer worse than humans? Well, most animals get eaten alive as a baby, right? So that is pretty bad, right? So, most humans aren't eaten alive. If you saw a human baby get eaten alive, you'd be like, oh my God, I'm traumatized for life. But if it happens to an animal, you're like, who cares? But that's wrong, that's hypocritical, that's not fair, that's not right. And, you shouldn't be making excuses for why animals don't suffer. That's literally just anyone trying to downplay the suffering of animals is literally just supporting animal abuse, basically. Quite literally. The people who downplay the suffering of animals, you are only giving reasons for people to abuse them, basically, and to allow them to suffer. That's quite literally what you're doing. Why would you support animal suffering? Obviously you shouldn't. And yeah, the idea that animals have it better than us is a joke, right? Animals don't have medicine, they don't have shelter, and yet most of them get eaten alive. It's not something you would ever want to experience. What about microorganisms and bacteria? Well, where do you think suffering came from? It came from, single-celled organisms, and the way life works, the more it evolves, from a single-celled organism, the entire trajectory towards, animals and humans is about evolving more and more ability to suffer. So the more you can suffer, the more, obviously you've got to develop, everything else as well. But suffering is extremely important for life to survive. It's massively important. It's about having more sensations, more awareness of the world, and but that only helps the lucky ones. For the unlucky ones, it becomes like an even worse torture chamber. So yeah, bacteria might not suffer, but they can evolve into animals and people which do suffer. So yeah, we should absolutely try and get rid of bacteria, make it so that even single-celled organisms, can't exist. That's what we mean when we say the most vast and thorough extinction possible. It's about total prevention, right? There's no point just, the least thorough extinction possible would be just removing all life and then hoping it never comes back. But, what does that do, right? That allows for the risk of, hundreds of billions of years of more suffering. So that's like the opposite of what you want to do. You want the most thorough and vast extinction possible to prevent, trillions of years of more suffering, right? So yeah, the prevention is more important than the removal of existing life, right? Most of the victims we want to help are in the future who haven't been born yet. So that's where prevention of life comes in. That's where the most thorough extinction comes in, the most vast as well, which means that we shouldn't just do one country, one planet. We should do as much as we can. And yeah, if we have hundreds of billions of years of suffering going on in the universe that's going to happen, it makes perfect sense that humanity should be prepared to exist for as long as it takes within danger, right? So essentially, we are probably never going to solve the problem of the universe being dangerous, right? So every life form will always be in infinite danger, and humanity does not want to be in that danger, right? It is bad for humanity, for humans to be in that danger, but we should only do it so that we can help others. We should continue being in that danger so that we can help others. And most people don't want to do that, right? Antinatalists, they don't want their child to be in danger so that they can help others, because they care about their non-existent child more than they care about existing children and potential children and all children, right? So, antinatalists, they literally care about one non-existent child, which will never exist. That's the extent of their empathy. Whereas we should care for every child which does exist and every child which will or could ever exist, right? That's much more important than caring about a non-existent child which will never exist. So yeah, antinatalists are really doing the opposite of what they should be doing. And they're also failing to see that humanity is the solution for the suffering of others and animals, right? Animals suffer worse than us, and they will probably just evolve back into humans or something similar anyway. So yeah, antinatalism is the least vast and the least thorough extinction possible, the least sensible way to prevent suffering. It literally only helps those that will never exist anyway. Caleb is saying, if you come to enlightenment, where are we? What are we saying? Okay, we have Az in the queue. Finally, somebody coming up to have a talk. Let's get them on. Hello.
Hi, James. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. I wanted to tell you something. The day I was like one of the earliest memories of my life. Okay. Is my voice clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. The earliest moments of my life up until now, I've been alive for 25 years. Okay. I don't think I really had a good time. Not really. From the earliest memories, sure. I mean, sometimes you can have good moments, which is like probably 10% of the time, okay? Honestly.
Yeah.
But 90% of the time, it's bullshit. It's just... Do you agree on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like, people are just essentially living to survive for that moment of serenity, right? Like when you get home from work and you can finally sit down and relax, that's what your entire day of stress is for, right? That tiny moment of relaxation. It's completely, it's upside down. It's insane.
And it's only just a couple of hours. Not even, maybe 3 hours, 4 hours a day, but the rest of your day, your whole time gets eaten by bullshit, okay?
And stress and suffering. But that's the problem, is that because humans are so capable, right? We have fantastic evolution, right? We have big brains and stuff. It means that we're capable of enduring a lot of suffering. And unfortunately, people think that that's somehow a good thing. But no, when you're suffering for 90% of your life so that you can enjoy 10%, that's not a good thing. And just because you can do it doesn't mean that you should do it or that it's a good thing to do. We can absolutely work for 12-hour shifts and then enjoy 1 hour at home, but that's not a good thing.
Mr. James, these people don't have the mental capacity that people like me and you, and people who are like pro extend, like, you understand, they don't have the mental capacity to understand basic concepts. You know, they only project their own realities onto others. You know what I mean? Their own experiences. For example, I am born with a happy family, etc., with good things going on in my life. They would never understand what somebody else is going through.
Yeah,
Somebody who is
it's bias, right?
very biased. You know what I'm very selfish. You know what I mean? I want to ask you a question. I think me and a lot of people want to ask you this question. I think you are like one of the, like, you're the most active pro like extension type guy. You know what I mean? What made you reach this point? Why?
Well, yeah, essentially, the more rational you are and the more capacity for rationality which your brain has, the more aware you are of the world, how the world works. So, you know, the less rational you are, the more religious you are. And essentially that greater awareness leads to more and more empathy. So, you know, the less rational you are, the smaller your brain is, the less you are worrying about others, right? The more you only worry about yourself. And so the more rational you are, the more awareness you have, the more you understand, and the more aware you are of the suffering of others. Ironically,
Was there a certain point that made you want to start this whole thing? A certain moment, a certain type of story or anything?
kind of. I mean, I've told it a few times. I'll tell it again. I went down a left-wing rabbit hole in, like, you know, throughout my life, basically, and I was never satisfied. Well, most of my life I was satisfied, actually, with the left-wing videos I was watching on YouTube and stuff like that, and, you know, Democrats in America and stuff, and, you know, I found it very interesting. But I guess around 2018, 2019, I started to be less satisfied and to demand higher standards, right? And to think, hang on a minute, this isn't actually going anywhere. This isn't good enough. You know, the world is just being run by criminals and dictators. Who is going to solve this problem, right? Who is actually going to do the right thing for the world? Because it's obviously not Donald Trump. And that's kind of, most people never get to that point where
And
they start demanding
these
better for the world. Most
these
people
hor-
never reach it.
these horrible people are on top of the, like, the food chain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always the most horrible people. Just check anywhere you go, anybody like at work or anybody in the entire world, they're always on top of the food chain. The most horrible people.
It's survival of the most selfish, basically. And that's what's always been the case with evolution, right? So throughout the entire history of Earth and evolution towards humanity, it's survival of the most selfish. So humanity still has, you know, hundreds of millions of years of evolution and selfishness still in our DNA, basically, and controlling us.
Well, Mr. James, I enjoyed your input. Okay, and I would like to talk again soon. My English is a little bad, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very
and
much.
what's your name?
My name is I don't want to tell my name exactly, but you can call me AZ.
We'll call you AZ. Thank you, AZ, for coming up. It was a good conversation. Consider joining our Discord and our WhatsApp group. The links are on my TikTok profile. That was a really good conversation. What else do we have to sort of think about from that? He was asking basically why I am one of the most active members of the pro-extinction movement. But actually, I think a lot of our members are very active, right? I think once you start doing activism for the end of all suffering, you've kind of got, you know, countless victims of extreme suffering depending on you. And that really does push you forward, right? When you have like just billions of children needing your help, essentially, yeah, you might end up very active as a result, right? If you have billions of children who need your help to not be tortured, basically, right? And look, we could all take on that moral obligation, but most people don't. They don't want any moral obligation. They don't want to do any activism at all, full stop. But the real problem with not doing any activism is that you essentially deny any sort of support, right, to anything. Whereas if you at least agree to support a movement or a political party, then when they finally need your help, you'll be able to help them, and they'll also be able to know that they have your support as well. So I think it is irrational, essentially, to do zero activism, to not support any sort of political party, or to even be thinking about it, right? You don't have to spend your whole life doing activism, but if you're not willing to do any activism, then you're essentially making it impossible for the world to improve, right? If you're not willing to lift a single finger, then how is anyone else going to do it? So that's kind of the problem with humans right now. They're not willing to lift a finger to make the world a better place in an organized way, right? They might do it in individual actions that, again, only help one person, but do nothing to help everyone else, right? When everyone else needs your help, right? You can literally help everyone. You can help the entire universe. You simply have to try to do it and to give it a go. Is there a pro-life movement you know of? Not yet, but we do think that eventually there will be a pro-life movement once there's enough of us, right? Once they need to oppose us, then they will start coming out of the woodwork. So yeah, that's a great question, Sasha. There almost definitely will be a pro-life movement in the future in order to resist extinction. And I'm sure it'll be quite funny. Okay, do we have anyone else wanting to come up? Now's a good time. Let's have a debate face to face, you and me. Or if you have any questions, you can now put them in the comments and we'll try and answer them for you. Are you serious or is it satire? I am deadly serious, right? The suffering in this world is serious and it needs a serious solution. And if anyone can propose a better solution than extinction, then we are willing to listen and we are willing to change our minds. If you have a better idea than extinction, if you've thought of a better way to end all suffering, then let us know. But currently, extinction is the only way to make sure that nobody is born into a bad life or a life that they didn't want and never asked for, right? Why should anyone have to be forced to experience a life of hell that they didn't even want, right? A species they didn't want, a body, a gender that they didn't want, a family that they didn't want, never asked for. Why should anyone have to be forced into that? You just have to think of like the most disgusting, the most sadistic, the most selfish and narcissistic, just the worst person imaginable, right? Why should they be allowed to have children? Whereas currently they are allowed. So, that's what most people are supporting. They're supporting children finding themselves being literally ruled by the worst person on the planet, right? People are happy for that to happen. What on earth is wrong with them to think that any child should have to be forced into the hands of a psychopath and a criminal and, an abuser? Right now, animals and humans are being born into the hands of abusers, and everyone is happy for that to continue for some reason. They think there's no problem. Yeah, a bit of, a few children get abused. Yeah, you got to break a few eggs, right? Well, why? Basically, and can you really say that you're better than an abuser if you're, supporting the abuse as well, right? Silence is violence. Absolutely. Suffering can make you stronger and make you feel happier. Well, that's not a good thing to say, right? If the suffering of others is benefiting you, Caleb, then that makes you like quite literally as evil as possible, right? You can't get more evil than benefiting from the suffering of others. Well, yeah, it's not all about you though, is it, Caleb? Right? Other people suffer, other animals suffer. You should try and think about them instead of just yourself. Gloria is asking, how do dogs suffer? Dogs suffer in many of the same ways that other life forms suffer. They get abused, they get eaten alive, they starve to death, they get illnesses, chronic pain, they get tortured, they get trapped, they get everything, right? They get cancer, they get eaten alive. That's got to be one of the worst ones, right? But I mean, at least if you get eaten alive, at least you pass away, right? And eventually you're safe. So there are definitely worse fates than being eaten alive. Just a whole life of pure hell. That's got to be the worst thing, right? Okay, we still don't have any guests wanting to come up. Caleb, yeah, say it to my face. Join the queue, Caleb. Let's get you up. Come on. Chinese people have a celebration for eating dog meat. Yeah, that's true. That is true. So, do dogs suffer? Yeah, obviously. Right? Every life form suffers. Okay. James for president. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. How are you going to make everyone go extinct? By growing the movement and carrying out total extinction with euthanasia. So putting everyone to sleep, basically. That's Luke in the movement has suggested that we start saying put people to sleep instead of euthanasia, because maybe it'll sound better, I don't know. But yeah, we just put all of the animals to sleep, we put all of the people to sleep, and they get to, rest for the rest of time in safety. They get to rest in peace. Holly says, I support this movement. It's great. Well, thank you. Yeah, we should absolutely support the end of all suffering. The thing is, right, the more extreme suffering is, the more ignored it gets, right? Most people, they don't care about the more extreme suffering. They only care about the less extreme suffering, right? They care about, oh my God, you lost your job. Oh my God, no. But, an animal gets abused to death. It's like, that's just life. That's just life. Somebody gets tortured for their entire life and they'll be like, don't worry about it. That's just life. But, somebody like loses their job or, someone breaks up with them. It's like, oh my God, no. Again, an animal or a child gets tortured to death. It's like, who cares, eh? We shouldn't care about that. So that's crazy, right? The world is upside down. Our ethics and morality are upside down. We care about, people and their relationships and stuff. And we don't care about, animals and children and people being tortured horrifically, right? So it's completely upside down, right? There's so much suffering in the world that needs help. There's so many victims that need help today. And yet people only care about fake stuff, right? Where is their empathy for all of the real victims? I'll tell you where it is. It's on Netflix, basically, right? The empathy goes to fake things instead of the real victims. It's completely upside down, right? Think of it this way. You've got like a child being abused to death right next to you. And instead of caring about that child, you're watching TV and you're watching someone have a romance and you're crying about it while ignoring the child being abused. So it couldn't really get more insane than this, basically, right? Do we have any more comments? Let's see. Grace, there's no point in talking to him. It's not going to help the movement. Not sure what you mean. James, I have a question. Yeah, go for it. Good thing you want a dog. Nobody would want to be a dog or any sort of animal, actually. Animals absolutely should not exist. The vast majority of them have terrible lives. And if you think that's okay, then that's incredibly cold and ignorant of you, right? What kind of monster would say, yeah, I don't care that most animals have, an incredibly terrible life where it shouldn't really happen. Right? But that is most people. So most people, they just don't think about all of this stuff, and they live in a bubble, right? Just a bubble. And if you even try to talk to them about this, they'll say, yeah, I don't want to talk about this. And it's like, oh, so what, that's it? It's like, yeah, I don't want to talk about it. It's like, right, so you're never going to change your opinion, and you won't even let us talk to you about it to where you could change your opinion. Yeah, most people, if you push them hard enough, will just say, all right, you know what, actually I don't care, or I don't want to talk about it. They will just find a way to maintain the bubble, the fantasy bubble, where everything's fine, I don't have to do anything, nobody needs help, I can keep just watching Netflix, there's no moral obligation actually requiring my urgent attention, right? There's no children or animals being abused. Yeah, it's a complete fantasy. It's a complete fantasy, a delusion to think that everything's okay. It's basically just choosing to have a comfortable perspective on the world instead of seeing the world for what it really is, right? The pro-life mentality is one of, essentially blissful ignorance, right? I'm not ignoring you. I just don't see that you've requested to come up. But I can send you an invitation. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, let's see. Do we have any more questions? James, what percentage of people do you think have the ability to understand and accept extinction? That's a good question. Well, maybe everyone, right? Maybe. But I think a lot of people just rely on the majority opinion. Right, so it is an interesting question, right? If somehow the majority of the world was pro-extinction, would the normal people, the humanity 1.0, would they suddenly agree with it? Would they be like, oh yeah, obviously? I bet they would, right? I bet they'd be like, well, yeah, obviously, right? It's what everyone says, so it must be true. So maybe in that sense they could agree with it, right? But yeah, how many people are rational enough to understand and support it? It's hard to say. It's hard to say because the thing is, look, any person can support extinction, right? You have people that support voluntary human extinction. You have people that want to see the world burn. Okay, you have people that want animals to go extinct but not humans. You have people that want humans to go extinct but not animals. You have lots of people that support, you literally have Satanists that support extinction. So, there are lots of people that can support some type of extinction. But in terms of how many people are going to support a rational extinction, like the one that we're advocating for, that is a much lower number, right? Any old antinatalist can say, yeah, I support extinction. But they don't support like a fair extinction or a thorough extinction or a vast extinction. They support like the worst extinction possible. So for the best extinction possible, how many people are going to support that? Not as many, right? It's going to be a minority. How many people in the world could support the best extinction possible? Well, in terms of a percentage, it's got to be... Well, let's think how many people, right? You've got 8 billion people. You've got about 100 people in the movement now. How many people on the planet would become activists? If everybody heard about the movement today, right? Everybody watches my videos today on the planet. How many would join? That's a really good question. Thousands, definitely, right? Definitely thousands of people would become serious activists. Probably, right? Millions, maybe. It's hard to imagine more than 1 million people joining the movement. Yeah, it's hard to imagine. But it is possible, right? I mean, look, China has 1.5 billion people. And, we're not doing activism in China at the minute, right? So and you probably wouldn't be allowed to. So most of the people that could join the movement are probably not allowed to see the content, right? Or they're not going to see it. They're too busy with their lives to be looking up pro-extinction. But how many could? I would like to think 1 million people could become activists, maybe more. In terms of the maximum number, which is realistic, I think probably, if I'm guessing, this is a complete guess, right? But if I had to guess how many people on the planet right now would agree to become an activist for extinction, I would say 10 million at the maximum, right? Absolute maximum 10 million. But, on the other hand, if the movement gets bigger, you're going to have more people joining the movement, joining the bandwagon, right? In the same way that, the bigger a movement gets, the more people join because it's big, right? So they join because it's popular. And we've had lots of people say, oh, I couldn't join this movement until it's bigger. I couldn't support this idea until more people support it. It's like, well, think for yourself, mate. Come on. But yeah, if 51% of the planet was suddenly pro-extinction, you can bet yourself a lot of other people would jump on the bandwagon just because it's popular. Yeah. All right, let's see. Can we invite Cora up again? Why not? I've sent you an invitation, Cora. But in terms of your access to live streams and TikTok, Cora, if you've got a new account, then that's probably the reason why you've not got full access to everything on TikTok yet. End lives matter. I would say all lives matter. And but more importantly than all lives matter, all suffering matters, right? All suffering matters more. Absolutely. Suffering matters more than life, actually. Yeah, so the prevention of suffering takes top priority over life existing at all times, at least, well, especially within, the bigger picture. What do? You should make more videos for the pro-extinction movement. You should get some followers. One way to get more followers is to follow other people. And one way to do that is you could literally go on my account, on my profile, you could go on and see who's following me, and you could just follow all of them. A lot of them are going to be pro-extinction or somewhat supporting of extinction. So you could do that. What's the point in this creation, bro? What will there be after everything is gone? But again, you have to start seeing it as we are in hell and we should turn hell off, right? This isn't just a simple world where it's a paradise. It's not even a neutral world, right? It's not even a neutral world. The universe is effectively nature. And what it does is generate life and cause extreme harm and trap innocence into lives of pure hell. That's all it does. So the universe is not neutral. It's not neutral. It's negative, right? It's extreme. It's the worst thing possible. So the existence of all this has to be stopped, has to be abolished. And you're saying, what's the point of turning off the meat grinder? We won't get any more sausage. Well, stop thinking about the sausage and start thinking about all of the victims going into the meat grinder. We should turn the meat grinder off and not care about, oh no, but we won't get any sausage. Right? That's literally what you're saying. But I'm done. Any more comments? Should we really target ourselves to go first or something bigger like the multiverse? Well, look, we can start with animals and we can work our way up. Okay? You don't need to make decisions on the universe and the multiverse to understand that, yeah, we have to help the animals on Earth, right? That's the first step of understanding what we should do is, well, yeah, animals are screaming in pain, we should help them. Humans are screaming in pain, we should help them. And we should work our way up and go, beyond that. And we can absolutely do universe-wide extinction. And yeah, if we discover a multiverse, maybe it will be like the TV show Loki, and there'll be, we'll have to have some sort of multiverse agency where we're sending out agents throughout the who knows, right? It could happen. Basically, we just have to follow wherever our moral obligation takes us. It's as simple as that. And yeah, it could take us on some crazy journeys. It could take us through the multiverse or through space and through the galaxies, right? So you just have to maximize your moral obligation and to just follow wherever it goes, right? But, saying, oh, we should stop at humans, not care about animal suffering, that's not maximizing your moral obligation. What does maximize our moral obligation is Steve, the founder of the movement, he came up with this, and it makes perfect sense. And we should every single activist or supporter of extinction needs to understand urgently and importantly that the priority is the most vast and thorough extinction possible, right? And, we have to determine what that is. What is the most vast and the most thorough physically possible? So that means that we just have to keep going, keep exploring, keep developing, keep researching, making it bigger and better, right? We need the best extinction possible, not the worst one, right? Again, the smallest and the worst extinction would be removal of humanity, right? Which would just come back through evolution. So that's the worst type of extinction. Then the second worst, or actually even worse than that, would be voluntary extinction, because it never happens. So if you do human extinction, that's the worst type of extinction. If you did humans and animals, but didn't prevent life coming back, that's like the second worst type. And yeah, it's just the smaller it is, the worse it is. The bigger it is, the better. And you can't say that it doesn't make sense to go for the biggest and best extinction, the most thorough, the most vast, because victims are depending on it, right? And if it takes us 1 billion years to do the most vast and thorough extinction possible, then that's going to prevent hundreds of billions of years of extreme suffering. So it's absolutely the right thing to do. And yeah, the top priority is the most vast and thorough extinction possible. That's what you need to understand. That's what the entire movement revolves around, right? It's everything to do with pro-extinction revolves around the most vast and thorough extinction possible. That is the most fair extinction possible, because we're saying we will help as many as we can, right? We won't say, oh, I don't like you, so I'm not going to help you. No, we will do the most possible, no matter what you look like, no matter who you are, we will help as many as possible in the most vast and the most thorough way possible. So it could be that, a million years from now or 1,000 years from now, we say, right, we have scientifically determined that we can do our galaxy and we can do this level of thorough extinction where it's pretty sturdy. Or it might be, well, it's kind of not that sturdy, but it's better than nothing. And we would just go for that, right? If it's physically impossible to go beyond our galaxy, then that would be the most vast and thorough extinction possible. If we can go beyond our galaxy, it's still the most vast and thorough extinction possible. And so, yeah, we should do the best thing we can do. It's as simple as that. A lot of people are like, oh, that sounds like effort. How long is that going to take? No, we should put our effort into doing the best. Arthur, hello. How's it going? Okay, yeah, we are not doing well for guests today, which is mostly due to our heavy restriction from TikTok, which is preventing us from being seen by other people. It's preventing our audience from growing, and that's going to last for another 2 days. So 2 more days of heavy restriction on TikTok, and then hopefully we'll be getting hundreds of people watching again. We'll be getting lots of debates again. So we're looking forward to that. Okay, we've got Gary in the queue. Are you the next Jim Jones? No, not at all. It's the opposite. Okay, still nobody in the queue, but still no restrictions, so that's good. How will you do this? Tyler is asking. We grow the movement, we gather together people who will agree to help those who are suffering, and we work together to make total extinction possible. James, what group of humans at the moment cause the most suffering? See, really, we don't like to think about that, and we don't like to think about it like that, because if you look at all of the suffering in the world, most of it is happening in nature, and the worst of it is happening in nature, right? Absolutely, the worst suffering, it does happen in nature. You know, animals absolutely do suffer worse than humans, okay? They really do, right? Again, nature is the worst conditions possible. Humans have the best conditions possible. So, you know, thinking about human suffering, it's not a great thing to do, and also it's very, very tempting. And I'm guilty of this as well. Okay, I think everyone is. It's very tempting to think about who is suffering worse. And you know, I've often been tempted to make a video saying, oh, you know, this group suffers worse than this group. And I've even done it a few times with the vegans versus, you know, wild animals versus farmed animals. Although I'm doing that to make a point. But even then you could say that it's pointless, right? Anyone that is trying to say animals don't suffer more than humans, or you know, this group suffers more or suffers less, usually they're just trying to justify suffering. So really, we have to try and get out of that mentality, because when you're saying like, oh yeah, you know, they suffer worse than them, well, I mean, I do it as well, obviously. I do say all the time, animals suffer worse than humans. But the thing is, I'm saying that to educate people, right? I'm not saying it to try and, you know, justify the suffering of one group over another. But maybe I am actually, right? Because in a way I am saying that humans should suffer so that they can help animals. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Okay, that's the point of this. No. Yeah, we should try and get away from differentiating between the suffering of different groups. That's what I'm really trying to say. Because ultimately, everybody suffers. We should care about everyone and all suffering. And a lot of people do try to differentiate between the suffering of others, again, in order to justify it and to prolong it and to keep it going. It's not a good thing. A better thing is to just make it more universal. And yeah, we should probably try to appeal less to people that are going to differentiate between the suffering of people and animals and stuff. Because again, they're mostly doing it in order to justify and defend the existence of suffering. James, what does your mother think about the movement? Absolutely nothing. She could not be less interested in having an opinion. She has never spoken to me about it. Just simply not interested, doesn't care. James, can you try and give some of the axioms of the pro-extinction movement? For example, suffering is bad. I guess some of the axioms would be like, you know, if life should never exist without certainty of safety, because the alternative is infinite danger, and only two things can provide certainty of safety, which is omniscience, and even then it might not be able to actually provide safety, right? We don't know for a fact that omniscience would even be able to provide safety. It could just be that this world is not capable of being safe. Whereas extinction is the only thing that can definitely provide certainty of safety from suffering and a bad life. So yeah, extinction is the only logical, the only rational way, the only effective way to provide safety, and the only way that can actually be certain and that can actually guarantee it, right? Even if, right, you know, the whole omniscience thing, right, that could fail. Okay, I've said before that only extinction or omniscience can provide certainty of safety. But actually, that's kind of wrong in a way, right? Extinction guarantees certainty of safety. We know it will work, right? We don't actually know if omniscience would make certainty of safety possible. You know, you could gain omniscience and say, oh, right, well, now I know that certainty of safety isn't possible. So you know, yeah, that makes it even less rational, even less ethical to research omniscience as a way to end suffering, right? To provide a guarantee of certainty of safety. So really, only extinction can provide that safety, that certainty of safety. It's the only thing we know will work, basically. And yeah, it would be crazy to give that up to go after something which is less likely to work, right? That's not ethical. That's completely unethical. Isn't euthanasia an option? No. Euthanasia is not a way to end suffering, right? Because it's not bulletproof, right? So a lot of people say, oh, what extinction? That's over the top. If anyone's suffering, we can just offer them euthanasia. No, that's not a foolproof way to solve suffering, because you're still guaranteeing that life will be in unsafe conditions. You're still forcing life into infinite danger. And that means that, that danger is going to make it difficult to guarantee that everybody can benefit from euthanasia, right? You can't guarantee anything without extinction or omniscience, basically, right? So it's not bulletproof, it's not foolproof. Only extinction is, well, I guess it's not technically, completely foolproof. If if life escapes, or, you fail to do total extinction, but it's the best solution that we do have, right? It's the only one that actually can work, right? Only if we have a total, if we have no life, no possibility of life in the universe, that's the only thing that could work, right? That guarantees it. And really, you have to consider those who will be trapped in lives of hell, right? That should just make it obvious that extinction is the right thing. Reducing the existence of life reduces the possibility of people and animals being trapped in lives of hell, right? There's no life, no possibility of lives of hell. If you do have lives, you have possibilities of lives of hell. So even if you had everybody in a simulation and they're all having a blast, right? And if you still don't have omniscience, then it could still go wrong, right? If there are unknowns, then that means that there are infinite unknowns. Unless you know everything, then you do have to basically assume infinite danger. So even in a simulation, there would still be infinite danger if it goes wrong, right? Everything could be great. You could be, going on a journey in a magical world or something, and then suddenly the simulation stops working properly, and now you're trapped and being tortured for billions of years. Do you want that to be possible, right? Would you go into a simulation knowing that that's a possibility, right? That we can't guarantee that won't happen. Would you join a simulation for pleasure under the knowledge that you could be trapped in hell for infinite time if it goes wrong? Would you want that? Right? And so we don't have a heaven, we don't have a simulation paradise, we have nature. We live in the real world with even worse danger, basically. But yeah, what is the conclusion of reducing suffering? It's got to be a simulation, right? It's got to be a digital world. But even that can go wrong, right? There's no way to guarantee that it will always work perfectly. You could end up trapped and tortured for millions or billions of years. So let me hear it in the chat, yes or no. Would you join a simulation, in the future, if there's a chance that it could go wrong, right? Or would you rather have non-existence and the certainty of safety, right? There you go. Let's see, more questions. James, imagine if we could get Elon Musk into the movement. Unfortunately, Elon Musk is very pro-life, like very pro-life. So he wants humanity to spread throughout the galaxies and to just keep perpetuating suffering. So Elon Musk will not be a friend to the movement. In fact, I made a video last week about how, or it might have been 2 weeks ago, about how Elon Musk is actively against extinction. He was on the Joe Rogan podcast talking about how extinction is bad. Convert him? Yeah, I don't know. The thing is, I think hopefully we all know that Elon Musk is a very selfish person. He's a narcissist. You know, he's not going to listen to compassion and to ethics and reason, right? The only thing Elon Musk would care about if you had a chance to talk to him is like, oh, you know, I've made a new rocket that can get to Mars. That's the only thing he's going to care about, because it's like a fantasy for him. He named another leader of extinction, a name I've never heard of. Right, yeah, he named... So when Elon Musk was talking to Joe Rogan about extinction, they were talking about the voluntary human extinction movement, also known as VEMT, which is run by some crazy guy, basically. I think he's a billionaire, actually. But if you go on the VEMT website, right, it's hilariously bad, right? It's literally like a website from 1989 or something. It's like the worst website it's worse than eBay. And yeah, it's a real joke of a website. They don't do activism. There's no, it's just a joke, essentially, right? It's the closest thing to a joke as it could be. Even if it is real and it is serious, it might as well be a joke, right? The website is just, it's literally from like 40 years ago. Yeah, eBay, their website is terrible. It's also from like 50 years ago or something. Okay, we still have nobody in the queue, and I would still love to get some more debates going. So I would love to get some more people coming up, having a conversation. Let's get you on stage. Let's hear your opinions. I want to talk. So somebody, talk. Is there a quote we could use to spread the knowledge of the movement? That's a great question. And I've been thinking about coming up with quotes, but I don't think we have a single quote that can be a catch-all for everyone, right? We don't have like a slogan, basically. Yeah, let's all brainstorm this right now. Everyone, let's start thinking together right now. What slogan could we use for the pro-extinction movement, right? Let's start thinking. Nobody deserves to suffer, or yeah, life is suffering, or I don't know. Total extinction is total safety for all. Like I don't know. I don't know if a slogan is going to help. Maybe it would. Maybe it would. Yeah, let's keep thinking about that. Nearly at 20k likes. Yeah, let's rock on. Blah blah blah. Now, dupremacy, I'm not sure that's a very nice thing to say. We're against advocating for violence and self-harm, and it's actually illegal to say things like that in the chat. So, I'm going to have to block them because he's literally advocating for violence. That's somebody that's been following the stream for a couple months, but he's literally just said, advocated for extreme violence in the chat. So they're gone, they're blocked, they're banned, they're done, they're out of here. Someone was saying something about the restrictions. Let's see what was their thought. Your live was restricted, so you're not being shown on TikTok. Yeah, exactly. Luckily, it doesn't seem to apply to my videos. TikTok seems to keep the live and the videos very far apart, very separate. So my restrictions on lives are just for lives, nothing to do with my videos, which is good because if they'd have restricted my videos, that would have been a real shame because I've just got like 1 million views in the last couple of days. So that's been really good. I've gained like, a couple thousand followers from that. Are you an advocate for terrorism? No, we are against violence. We're against self-harm. We actually need more humans to continue reproducing. The bigger humanity is, the better. The more humans, the better. The more stable and peaceful our society, the better. That is exactly what is going to help cause extinction. To help us, research in a relaxed way the most vast and thorough extinction possible, right? If we're in World War III or something, it's going to make it really difficult to help animals. Okay, let's see. Are you restricted? Yes, that's the reason why we have 38 viewers. But again, changing my background to this seems to probably have solved the problem with restrictions. I was getting a restriction like every 10 minutes with my old background, and I think that was the problem. So hopefully the new background will have fixed that. Do you want a war? A war could not cause extinction, right? So extinction has to be done scientifically and in a thorough scientific way, basically. So war is not going to be helpful for that. It's the opposite. However, we might need a war in order to take over the world and to start, carrying out total extinction. So we're not planning extinction by releasing a virus or anything like that. You have to do it as a government. So we will be the pro-extinction government, and we will be running the planet and the world and all of humanity, basically, in order to carry out, we'd be starting with animal extinction. We have to help those that can't help themselves first. So yeah, we have to get to being a government, and we could do that through a civil war or a revolution. Yeah, that's a possibility, and we're happy to do that if it's necessary. We would rather do it without violence and without a revolution, but it does seem like that's probably going to take a lot longer, and the victims don't have the patience to be waiting around, right? That their suffering isn't something we can just say, take your time. No. Alien extinction isn't a joke. That's right. Actually, most life on other planets is just really, it's going to look very similar to Earth, where you have animals suffering terribly for billions of years. So we should help out aliens and animals on other planets as well. James, I'd say choose extinction, thrive in peace. Kind of. It's not bad, Ryan. It's not bad. Choose extinction, thrive in peace. I kind of like it. I like it, but ultimately I don't know if thriving in peace makes sense, right? It's a bit contradictory. I get what you're saying, obviously. I do get it, but I don't know. I think we need some more ideas as well. Okay, let's see. James, do you know the quote, non-existence hurts no one while existence hurts everyone? Yeah, I don't know who came up with that, but I've seen Luke saying it quite a lot. Do those who live in extreme suffering have the right to euthanize themselves before the extinction? I would say yes, yeah. Now, Steve, who is still technically the leader of the movement, he has decided that we should be against the right to die. And that makes sense, right? So people that don't actually need the safety of non-existence urgently, whereas the mission still requires them to exist, right? Because we still need humanity as the vehicle for ending suffering. If someone is just bored and wants to pass away, then we might not let them. So the pro-extinction government will not say, anyone can just go like that. That will not be happening, because again, we need humanity, right? We need to be encouraging and forcing people to do the right thing and to exist in danger with suffering and chance of suffering in order to make sure that nobody suffers ever again. Yeah, you have to suffer to put an end to suffering. So those who are suffering terribly under the pro-extinction government, I haven't fully asked for Steve's opinion on this. I think he agrees with me. But those who are really suffering terribly, we would absolutely allow them to be euthanized. Yeah, for sure. But if it's someone that's doing it for philosophical reasons, or just because they feel like it or something, we're going to lean towards no, because we need humanity to exist. However, that could change. That could change. It could get to a point where we're comfortable enough to where we can say, right, anyone that wants to go, yeah, go for it. We'll help you do it in an easy way. We could get to that point, but we have to be prepared to not allow it as well, because again, humans are the only vehicle for ending suffering. So we have to prioritize animals. We have to prioritize the most vast and thorough extinction possible. And unfortunately, right now, most people take liberties with that, right? They're willing to do half measures. They're willing to take shortcuts. They're willing to say, let's, focus on human extinction and hope that, maybe we'll have time to help animals. No, it's the opposite. It's the exact opposite. We should absolutely do the opposite of human extinction, make sure humanity doesn't even come close to extinction until we've helped others first. Okay? So the more humans, the better, right? The bigger the vehicle is for putting an end to all suffering, the better, right? And the faster we can do it as well. What's your opinion on people that say nuke it all? They're just not being serious, right? Nukes are not realistically going to be used for extinction. They just make a mess, basically, and they mess things up. How do I join this organization in the state of Missouri? Anyone can join from anywhere. It's online, so you should join our Discord and our WhatsApp group, and you can start doing activism on the internet with us, making videos, debating people, educating people, growing the movement globally. So yeah, Mike from Missouri, you should check out the link to the Discord. You can find that on my TikTok profile. You can also Google search Abolish Suffering Discord, and it will be the first link on Google. Our WhatsApp link is at the bottom of our website, proextinction.com. You can also DM me on TikTok if you want as well. Okay, I'm going to be going pretty soon. So we have time for one more debate, one more conversation. If anyone wants to come on live, then this is your last chance before I get going. What do you think of taking Elon Musk's spaceships by force to use them for an alien extinction? I don't think that's likely to happen. But if, we would do it potentially. Yeah, why not? Wouldn't a better solution be to heavily reform capitalism? No. Reforming capitalism or doing communism or whatever, it does nothing to put an end to all suffering, right? If you have a communist world and it works perfectly, there's still going to be, people getting tortured, living through lives of pure hell, animals being eaten alive in nature. So communism doesn't end all suffering. You're still going to have, children born with, terminal cancer and stuff like that. Someone's saying, hi, Pepsi guy. Well, hello to you. Pepsi ends all suffering, especially on a hot day like this. James, I tried to find the sub on Reddit. It doesn't exist. Let me double check. So yeah, we do have a subreddit, or at least we did. Let's see if it still exists. Okay, yeah, so we've got... You're right, Undo Existence was banned. We've had like 20 subreddits. No, actually it's more like 30 subreddits have been banned for extinction. Reddit really hates extinction. It's funny, everyone says, oh, this is such a Reddit philosophy. This is such a Reddit way of thinking. But Reddit is like actually the only platform that is completely against extinction and bans us every time. No other platform has banned us except for Reddit. So we do have a Reddit. We absolutely do. And it is r/against existence. So against existence, the subreddit. It's relatively active. It's got like, post every day basically. We've got a question on the subreddit from a curious inquirer. Why do you believe humans have the moral obligation to reduce and end the suffering of sentient beings which we did not cause? What moral obligation do I have to help an animal that is starving or being eaten alive? What do you use as the justification for this obligation? So the thing is, it's less of like a moral or a logical obligation. It's more about awareness, right? The more aware you become of extreme suffering, the more obvious it is that we have to help. So most people that struggle to understand, why should we help anyone? Why should we care about anyone else? It's really because they just haven't experienced empathy. They haven't actually experienced like, oh my God, you're right. It really is that bad, right? Oh my God, that's shockingly. They haven't experienced that. They are less aware of all of the suffering in the world. They haven't learnt about it yet. They haven't found out how bad it is, how serious it is. They're still in this bubble that everything's fine. There's no need to help anyone else. Um, so in terms of, yeah, why should we help a starving animal? Um, it's really interesting, right? You know, people want some logic. They want a reason for it. But again, it's more about awareness, right? Those who are helping others, they do it not because of some sort of philosophy, not because of some sort of logic, but because of they're aware of how much pain the other person or animal is in, right? That's what it's about, awareness. It's less about logic and, you know, give me a reason to care. You know, that's what people are asking for. Give me a reason to care. Well, I can't really. The thing is, you have to kind of open your mind to the suffering of others. You have to explore it, to think about it, to consider how bad it is, and to figure it out, essentially, to figure out what's actually going on out there. Most people have no idea because they're not thinking about it. Weird that there are no guests today. There are no guests on the stream because I've been restricted by TikTok for having a provocative background. This one is now not provocative, so problem solved. But for the next 2 days, I have a heavy restriction. Now, some people can still join, but less people are joining as a result. And that's why we're not getting many debates, because we're not getting many new people, you know, who've never heard of this coming in. It's mostly my followers that are watching the stream now. But my eye is on the queue. You know, if anyone does want to debate or have a discussion, I will bring them straight up immediately. I don't want extinction. I would miss your eyes, James. You're not the only one. For some reason, people really love my eyes. Look at me, I'm the captain now. Do I have to fill out a form? You do have to fill out a little form to join the Discord, but you know, you can keep it pretty brief. You don't have to go into too much detail. To join the WhatsApp, you will also be questioned, basically. Because the thing is, we get crazy people trying to join, right? We literally get people joining who want to do murder. So yeah, we have to have an application form for you to join the Discord, because too many people were coming in saying like, you know, let's blow shit up, right? Let's start killing people, and we're against that. We actually need more humans for hundreds of years until.
I didn't know I'm supposed to ask to join. Okay.
Yeah, hello.
I just have a few questions.
Okay.
Okay. Why don't you kill yourself then? Why shouldn't I kill myself instead of like killing others?
Because others are suffering terribly, right? So we should make sure nobody is suffering.
But why do you care about others? Isn't just killing yourself the best thing?
No, because we have to help those that can't help themselves first, right? And why do I care about others? It's because I'm aware of how much suffering is in the world, and that the only right thing to do is to be against all of that and to provide as much safety as possible from suffering.
So it's like a right and wrong thing to do, like ideology,
Yeah.
isn't it? Well, but if you suffer yourself, I suppose, why do you care about others? Just kill yourself, or also just kill someone who doesn't know about anything, and you'd be like a saint or
We're
something.
going to have to block you permanently for advocating violence. Okay, you can't just come up here and start saying that we should go around killing people. That's against the law. It's against what our movement actually stands for. And it's also counterproductive to extinction as well. You know, if people start going out and doing violence in the name of extinction, that's going to make activism harder for us, right? Even if a crazy person like that does it, right? That could affect me and other people, other activists. So we're completely against that. James, what is the best question or argument you've heard? Well, I'm still kind of circling around the argument that that will face too much opposition. So I think one of the best arguments against extinction is that it will be too difficult to make it happen. There'll be too much resistance, too much opposition. That the pro-lifers, the billionaires, and everything, that they will not let us do it, right? That they will take us out, or they'll stop us somehow. That this is too far against human nature to ever work. So it's a respectable argument for sure, but it underestimates the potential of the pro-extinction movement, right? It puts us on the same level as humans on the 1.0 when we're not on the 1.0, right? We're on the 2.0. So we can potentially solve that problem. We can potentially break past the difficulty and the challenge. But it's still one of the best arguments against extinction. The idea that it will just simply be too difficult to make it ever happen not in terms of the science, but in terms of resistance from, most people. And, part of that argument goes on to say that it would be better to go with the flow and to, reduce suffering instead of ending suffering, because if everyone can agree with reducing suffering, then, we're doing it the wrong way by we're going too hard, basically. That's what a lot of people argue. But if you're never trying to end all suffering, if we gave up on the pro-extinction movement, then that would basically be giving up on all of the victims that it would help, right? And it would be giving up on the best solution possible, right? It would be giving up on the best solution, the most effective solution, and it would be saying, okay, fine, suffering wins, basically. That's what it would be saying. If you give up on the pro-extinction movement, you're saying, okay, suffering wins, we'll just allow all the suffering, basically. See you later, Shah. Thanks for joining. Okay, we've got more questions in the chat to go through. So, we're indoctrinated into thinking that suffering is the only way to go by life. Everyone is absolutely indoctrinated big time. And even extinctionists get indoctrinated during their childhood, and they have to kind of break out of it, snap out of it, you break out of the indoctrination. Okay, who else have we got in the chat? If you have comments or questions, type them now. People say, why won't we end ourselves? But true empathy is securing everyone. That's right, Ryan. Exactly. Ryan, again, I think you should join the movement. You sound perfect for us. The thing is, right, don't help just yourself, help everyone. And in terms of helping everyone, it's actually not that hard, right? It's actually easier than helping yourself, right? Everyone can always give advice to other people that they can't take themselves. Yeah, it is easier to help others than to help yourself, I think. And it's not that hard to help everyone. Even though it's more people than just yourself, it's actually really easy, right? Because we don't need to do that much to help others. Just growing the movement and spreading the movement and educating people, that helps a lot, right? That absolutely helps massively. And so that's all it takes to help everyone, is to just speak out for the right thing. And that will help everyone. That will, if I'm saying we should do this to make the world better, and if enough people listen, then that helps everyone, essentially. And we need a system to help everyone, right? We should absolutely do pluribus, basically. We need to stop only caring about ourselves. Like right now, pretty much everyone is completely on their own, right? The rest of the world is basically a threat, an enemy, a risk, a danger, right? So even your family, you can't trust them. You're literally just here by yourself. It's completely just you, basically. It's a free-for-all. We need to change that, right? Ideally, we would have every human connected, and, we would get so much efficiency gains out of that it would actually make everything work, basically. So, you know, there would be no more violence or war or all of that other stuff which wastes our time, takes our attention. We need to work towards a more connected and efficient world where we're all doing better things together, essentially. And yeah, I think it would be perfect, really, if we could all trust each other, all be connected. And that is essentially a pluribus type situation where everyone is like hive mind connected. Now, it doesn't mean you necessarily have psychic powers. Maybe you would. But you'd know that you could trust everyone, right? If everyone agrees that suffering is unacceptable, right, they'd be a lot more trustworthy, if nothing else. And we should see it as, you know, we're all doing this together. We're all working on the most vast and thorough extinction possible together. We're all working on doing the right thing for the world together. That's what we should all be doing, right? Instead of just caring about ourselves, only caring about ourselves, right? So people have this kind of this mentality that, well, I only have enough time to care about myself. But by staying in that mentality, you're guaranteeing a terrible world for everyone and for yourself, right? So you have to sort of take the pinch, take the pain, and yeah, use the suffering to grow, basically. So stop thinking about yourself, stop caring about only yourself, stop looking after only yourself, and start caring about the entire world, start looking after the entire world. And yeah, there might be a while where you suffer as a result, because, you know, you're not looking after yourself as much. But eventually, if we get to a place where everyone is on the same page and we're all, you know, working together towards ethics and morality and stuff, right? Then that would be much better than what we're currently doing, where we're only caring about ourselves, right? We should care about everyone, and that way they will all care about us as well. If we need their help, they will help us. If they need our help, we help them. And we can all do it in a much more effective and efficient way if we're all helping each other. Again, right now, it's the opposite of that. It's you're on your own, buddy, right? You'll be born alone, you'll die alone. Yeah, you might have a wife or a family, but really you're on your own. That, you know, everyone is only looking out for themselves, basically. That is the situation right now. That's the world. That's a bad thing. That's a terrible thing, right? I think it's true, though. Everyone does feel alone in this world, right? Everyone feels alone because we have such disconnect. There's no unification between humanity, right? Humanity is completely disconnected, disunified, and that directly causes all of the suffering, basically, or keeps it going, right? Okay, we've got Laz in the queue. Let's try and bring him up. Would you consider insects as suffering? Yes, absolutely. And you could say, well, maybe this insect doesn't suffer, maybe that one does, but come on, I'm sure at least one insect is suffering. And that's enough, right? And even if insects weren't suffering, we should still consider the possibility that they could be, and that they could evolve to suffer in the future. So, yeah, you have to consider potential suffering, potential life as well. And so, yeah, even microorganisms, or even a place where there is nothing, there is no life, right? You still have to consider that as well, because it could have life eventually. For you, what is the best way to soft launch the idea in our surroundings? Well, we do peaceful activism, Ryan. And we have a lot of people going out onto the streets and doing rallies and protests, specifically to get more people to join the movement, to do more peaceful activism. So I hope that answers your question. Any book recommendations? Yes, actually. There is, I mean, at the minute, there's just kind of one book that we recommend people read. There's probably more stuff that we could endorse and support, but one really good book, which, you know, Steve, the founder of the movement, he endorses as well, is by Robert Sapolsky. And the book is called Determined, A Science of Life Without Free Will. And it came out in 2023. He's got other books as well, but this is probably the best one. determined a science of life without free will. Yet most humans actually do believe in free will, which is completely incorrect. And the more you realize and learn that free will doesn't exist, the more you learn that all of human behavior and animal behavior is massively determined by your genetics and the shape of your brain, basically. I guess this is a really good book for you to read, because basically, a lot of people, if not most people right now, they have it as wrong as possible, right? They believe in free will. They believe that every human has this exact same brain and the exact same opportunities. And they also believe that, it's also why people get angry at others, right? Because they don't actually understand why they're doing what they're doing. So they just get emotional instead of understanding. This book will help you to actually understand human behavior instead of getting angry about it, instead of getting emotional. And it will also get you to realize more and more that all of human behavior and personality and psychology is massively determined by your genetics, right? There are basically like millions and millions of like flips, basic switches, right? So millions and millions of sort of traits that can be turned on and off by your genetics. So yeah, each person's brain has millions of differences which make them more likely to get addicted, or more likely to be angry, more likely to be a good person or a bad person. And then it also what type of food you like, right? So there's millions and millions of these things which determine your behavior. So it's a massive, control on the brain, basically, instead of what people think now, where everyone has no control, right? There's total free will. There's nothing controlling your brain. It's just whatever you want to do, you do, right? Everyone has the same brain. It's a blank slate. No, that's completely ignorant, right? So it's the opposite of that. It's as against that as possible. Everyone is completely determined by their brain genetics, by their environment. There's no such thing as free will. And yeah, you really do need to understand genetics and evolution and psychology as well to understand extinction even more, right? Part of it is understanding why most of humanity is against extinction, right? That's a really important thing to understand. But it's difficult to understand. But yeah, Robert Sapolsky will help you understand and also understand like why humans are just like animals.
Hello.
Laz, hello.
Hello again.
How's it going?
I'm good.
Great. Do you have any questions?
Just a question. Yeah, a question. What do you think happens after death?
Say again?
What do you think happens after death?
What is a carpenter doing today? Is that what you said?
No, what happens after death?
Oh my God, sorry. That's my bad. You rest in peace, right? What happens after death is the same as before you were born. It's just nothingness, basically.
Okay.
Right, so like one way to think about it is like what I'm doing right now is I'm looking at the road out my window, and I'm seeing that there's nothing there, there's no life there, right? Nothing is suffering. I'm going to be that road, basically, when I pass away. There's just going to be nothing. There's just going to be nothing.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a good thing, it means you can't suffer. And there's no evidence of an afterlife. If there ever is some sort of evidence, then we will consider it and we will update our principles accordingly. But right now, everything seems to indicate that there is no God. There's just a natural world, and we basically run this world. We own it, essentially. So that there is no God. We are effectively the gods of this world, and we have to do the right thing for it. So, people were asking earlier, like, why should I care? Well, the thing is, because we run the world, right? You're not subject to this world. The world is subject to you. So you have to start thinking about, what is right and wrong. Because, yeah, you run the world, basically. Having intelligence means that you can run the world, and so we are doing it, and we have to start thinking what's right and what's wrong, and only zero suffering is right. Clint is asking, James, are you familiar with David Benatar? I'm familiar with it, but I've not read it. But as a lot of people will tell you, he doesn't go far enough, right? Voluntary extinction doesn't go far enough. It doesn't help animals. So he's an antinatalist, basically. So he's just as irrational as any other antinatalist. If we don't have free will, how do we choose to go extinct? Not having free will doesn't mean that you don't still make decisions, right? It's a bit like running a program or watching a film, right? It's still going to run, right? It's still going to happen. And it will feel like you have free will, but you don't. So don't worry about it too much. But how do we choose to go extinct? Well, we know that extinction is the right thing, so we should choose to do the logical thing, the right thing. We got to take the power from the billionaires. Yeah, we do. Our movement specifically plans on taking over the world to run it ethically, because, yeah, it is being run by psychopathic billionaires right now. So, you know, even just on that basis, we still need to take over the world so that it's run ethically. Who else have we got in the chat? Has anyone ever been banned from the movement? Oh, yeah, loads of people. But not for being too extreme about it in a rational way. If you mean too extreme about it in terms of violence, then yeah, sure. We ban people every day for saying, you know, I want to do violence. And it's like, well, then you're banned. He says it applies to humans and animals. Yeah, fair enough. But the upgrade, basically, pretty much the pinnacle of human thought is kind of what Steve came up with, really. You know, the most vast and thorough extinction possible. That is basically the pinnacle of human thought at the minute, really. Because it is the highest thing to strive for. You know, Steve came up with the only objective, the only goal worth fighting for, and the most perfect goal possible, essentially. Has anyone been blah, blah, blah? What's your JOH? My job, right? I don't have a job, actually. So I'm just relying on donations and support from the community at the minute. Did you say no free will doesn't mean you can't make decisions? That's correct. Even if we don't have free will, which we don't, we still have to make decisions. Because that's the way our brains work. They can only do so much at a time. And so that sort of bottleneck creates experience, basically. I have a crush on you. Okay, cool, fair enough. Let's see who else. Host, do you realize what you said contradicts with free will? No, it doesn't contradict at all. He's unemployed, yep. What else we got? How would we go extinct? We have to work towards the most vast and thorough extinction possible. It's going to be a scientific endeavor, but nothing less than that. But anything less than that isn't good enough. So, in terms of should we use nukes or not, it's mostly about finding an even better way than that, essentially. So it's about scientifically determining what is the most vast and thorough extinction possible. That is the main goal of the movement, determining it and carrying it out. In the meantime, we would start, you know, removing animals and stuff like that. There's no point just allowing suffering for the sake of it. Do we have any more questions? Let's see. Why aren't you working? It's complicated. Serious question. Why don't you run for local politics and slowly work your way up? I think I've kind of already blown that at this point, right? I don't think I could realistically run for local politics with all of this, the massive amounts of evidence on the internet that I'm in a death cult. You know what I mean? I think people would find out, and probably not let me run or become a politician. James, I heard you answering every question hundreds of times. It's like you're an extinction human robot. Yeah. I mean, it's more that I'm like channeling rationality itself, basically. That's how I like to think of it. You know, rationality is a really interesting thing. Perhaps the most interesting thing. How is there no contradiction? If we don't have free will, of course we can't make decisions. Well, you don't have free will, and you are making decisions every day. So there you go. That's how it works, right? The system works. Serious question. Oh no, I've answered that. He's not contradicting himself. Thank you. Yeah. I don't think there's any contradiction in saying that there is no free will, and yet we still have to make decisions, right? What would the alternative be? You still have to process the information and think about it and come to a conclusion, make a decision. That doesn't mean that you have free will. That's just your brain working normally. It's still completely determined. You can still feel like you have free will, even if you don't. You never know. People may agree if you run. That's how political movements form officially. Yeah, maybe. James, what if there's hell and heaven? What do we do? We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I think you should give politics a shot anyway. I think the masses would support your digital footprint. Yeah, maybe I should. But, yeah, should I run for Prime Minister of the UK? Yeah, maybe I should. Maybe I should. But it's difficult at the minute. All right. Your decisions are determined by your prior causes. Your decisions are determined by everything, basically, right? But definitely not by free will. I think trying to get an interview or a Jubilee debate would make this go viral. Yeah, probably would. You know, help me try and set it up, right? And I'll absolutely do it. Hell is empty, all the demons are here. No, all the victims are here, basically. We do have to start seeing Earth and the universe as hell, essentially, right? That's the better way to see it, right? Most people are seeing it as a neutral thing where there's lots of happy people. No, it really isn't. The universe is hell. The atoms themselves are basically generating extreme suffering, right? The existence of it alone generates torture, right? The universe, what does it do? Like, what is the one function of the universe, basically? It's to generate suffering, right? It's to generate torture. So yeah, if this is basically hell, we are basically in hell. And people don't like hearing it, and it upsets them. It, you know, makes their fantasy that they're living in feel a bit darker. But yeah, I'm sorry to tell you guys, we are all in hell right now, and it's going to get a lot worse. It will. You know, we are probably all going to suffer a lot worse than we are right now in our individual lives as we get older and suffer more. And yeah, you know, basically over 99% of life here is being tortured to death as a baby. If this isn't hell, I don't know what it is. And it's only that the tiny minority of privileged humans that think, oh, it's not hell, it's great, keep the suffering going. But they don't realize that they are, you know, sat on top of a meat grinder enjoying the sausage that comes out while children and animals go in and get tortured, right? To the vast majority, right? So they're sat on top of a massive meat grinder where over 99% of life is just getting tortured so that they can eat a little bit of sausage. Right? So yeah, we live in hell. We live in hell. We should shut hell down, close hell. Absolutely. We shouldn't be trying to turn hell into a paradise at the cost of providing safety, right? That's what people want to do. They want to basically open an ice cream shop in hell and sell it to all of the privileged ones instead of helping those who are screaming, right? They're like, what great weather for an ice cream, don't you think? Oh, the screaming child over there is a bit annoying, though. Can we do something about that? You know, maybe put headphones in so we don't have to listen? That's basically the pro-life mentality of, oh, what? End suffering? You must be having a laugh. Why should we care about others? We should just go after more pleasure. So yeah, they would just keep hell running. They would keep all, 99% of life being tortured. And they would just start selling ice creams, basically. And what they are doing is they're now filming all of the animal suffering in nature and enjoying it as entertainment. So if that's not like super hell, I don't know what it is, right? 99% of life is being tortured to death, and the 1% of privileged humans are now filming it and watching it for fun, right? Watching the animals eat each other for fun, right? David Attenborough, for example, he loves animal suffering, right? He loves animal abuse. He wants to film it for entertainment, right? It's disgusting. Okay, I'm going to get going now, everyone. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all tomorrow.